Hi, I'm Dr. Catherine Pearlman. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, the founder of the Family Coach, and I am a living kidney donor. I'm here today with Dr. Jeffrey Veale. He's a professor at the David Geffen School of Medicine in the UCLA Department of Urology. He specializes in renal transplantation and is the director of the UCLA Kidney Transplantation Exchange Program. Did I get that all right?
Nailed it.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for chatting with me today. I actually have such a great memory of you, even though we've never met. So I donated about a year ago, and you were the surgeon for my recipient, Eli. And when I was in recovery, you were coming down to meet with Monica, my recipient's wife, to tell her that everything was working. And in this picture, she's looking up at you. She's kind of got a smile, and you're looking down, and it just says everything about that moment. And it's really such a hopeful picture because as a donor, all you really want to know is, did it work? You know, when I woke up, that's the first thing, like, did it work? And that's the first thing the recipient's family wants to know. So from your perspective, you know, what is that moment like? Is it still a joy to be able to come down and give that news, or is it kind of just like you've done it before and you know it's good, but it's not as meaningful as it once was?
Yeah, I mean, I just transplanted a little 2-year-old, and talking to the parents that love this little kid, and they've been doing dialysis with this little kid, you know, and seeing the joy that it wasn't just for this little kid who had no idea what happened, but it was like, obviously they see the potential for this kid now to be off dialysis, go to school, play sports, go to college, get married, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for the family, you know, it's like the mom and dad were like, this is great for us. Like it frees them up from having
Right.
to go to all these hospital visits and dialysis and this. And they were like, you know, that was one that recently was like, they were just as happy. It was almost like I transplanted 3 people instantly, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, some people, it's like you give a kidney and you can just tell how much it means. I mean, it's like then they finally can move to be closer to their grandchildren. They've just retired. They haven't, you know, with COVID, they haven't seen their grandkids, and they want to just like be with their grandbabies and move closer to their grandbabies and their, you know, whatever, their son and their daughter-in-law. And you can just tell so much is on the line on getting a kidney. And yeah, when you obviously talk to like the husband or the wife or whoever's there, and then they're just like, they're hanging on every word. And then you tell them everything went great. The kidney made urine on the table, which is a really good sign. It looks like there's no more dialysis. You can just tell that they're so relieved. Firstly, that they made it through the surgery okay. And secondly, that, you know, they're going to be off dialysis and they can kind of get on with their life. And so I still always try to meet the family after. And that is, you know, one thing that hasn't worn off on me. It's sometimes sad when there is no family. I mean, I just did a heart kidney. Obviously, I didn't do the heart transplant. Another surgeon did the heart transplant. I did the kidney transplant portion of it. But I went to go talk to the family, and this guy basically had no family.
Wow.
And I was like, how sad is it that this guy got a heart kidney transplant? I mean, he was within an inch of his life, and it went well. You know, he got you know, sadly, it was a somewhat young person that died, and he got a beautiful heart, beautiful kidney. It went great. I couldn't wait to go down and talk to the family. This guy had no family. I ended up phoning someone, but it's like a distant cousin, and you could just kind of tell that like they weren't particularly close. And it was like, oh man, it's good to have family, and yeah, I still really love that aspect.
Yeah, that's actually a really sad situation. I think what's so interesting is people think, you know, someone gets a kidney and they're really just thinking they don't have to do dialysis anymore, but they're not really thinking about the whole life that's changed, all the family members that's lives have now changed, and all the things that they can now do. It's more like a forward thing. It's like, well, when you take away dialysis, there was that opportunity cost. Now it's not just that they don't have to go to dialysis, but they get to have a full life. They can to do all these things.
Right. Yeah, they can go back to work, which is big. They can go back to teaching. They can go back to coaching. Maybe they love coaching, but they couldn't go on the road when the team went traveling because of dialysis. They couldn't spend like a week, you know, at a whatever, some tournament in Phoenix, Arizona or something. Now they can go back to coaching, which is like their passion. Yeah, there's all that stuff. I mean, patients also love the fact they can just eat pizza again. You know, they've been on phosphate binders. They can't really have cheese. They also they really miss pizza. I had no idea. I mean, I like pizza, but I had no idea like how important pizza is to patients. And then the other thing is that some of the patients, like one other one I transplanted last week, he hadn't made urine for like years. I think he was on dialysis for 10 years. He got a deceased donor kidney, and now he like, it felt so good to like actually make some urine and void. You know, so it feels, we take it for granted what it's like to actually, you know, go into the restroom is like annoying for a lot of us, but it's not. I think we take it for granted. So next time you go to the restroom, just know that some people actually miss that feeling of voiding. I guess it makes you feel more whole or more human or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what you did, I mean, you really stepped up and did a huge thing. So it's beautiful what you did for a total stranger who, you know, you didn't even know, and you just happened to see something at Starbucks that caught your attention, and you were going to do it earlier, potentially to, I think it was your son's teacher. You thought about it years before. Yeah. So it's beautiful that there's people that are just doing it. I love how you put it. It said something like, you know, I can't like control the fires, or I can't control, you know, the shootings at the synagogues and stuff like that. But, you know, what I did for my recipient, I really helped this gentleman and his family. And that's kind of your ripple effects that he has in the world, you know, it's thanks to you. So, yeah, I'm grateful that there's people like you, Catherine. Thank you.
No, I'm happy to do it. I don't regret it at all. And it's funny that you say about making urine, because I never really thought about, you know, people not making urine. And after my kidney was in Eli, he jokes like, wow, Catherine really has to go to the bathroom a lot, which is yeah. actually true. I go to the bathroom all the time. Right. And so it is just really funny. Like he really connects. He's like, oh, Catherine has to go to the bathroom. Yeah. So it is really a neat connection. And we've been lucky enough to get to know my recipient and his family. They actually dropped me off last night a pumpkin that said donate life. And so it is really nice to be able to see his life, you know, move back. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is the voucher program, which I think is really important for a lot of reasons, but maybe you could just tell me about, so basically the voucher program is you give now, and then someone gets a basically gift certificate for a kidney later when they need it.
Exactly. So when we think of donors and recipients, there's some recipients that aren't on dialysis yet. So maybe they know that their kidneys are failing, and they know that in like 5 years they'll be on dialysis, but they're kind of going along on a wobbly kidneys for now. But they might have a donor who needs to donate now, because maybe in 5 years, due to advancing age, they might be too old to donate. So what the voucher program does is let that donor donate now when convenient, when they can donate, and then the recipient, their loved one, gets a voucher that they can redeem in 5 years or 10 years or whenever they need it. So it basically, like you said, it's like the donor donates when convenient, and the recipient gets to redeem and get a kidney when he or she, or if he or she needs a kidney in the future. It's a great program. I took a lot of heat for it initially. Even
why?
Well, so the first case was a grandfather who wanted to donate to his grandson, Quinn. He's a judge, Judge Broadman. His grandson, Quinn, was born with a solitary single kidney. It didn't work really well, and he was 4 years old, and the nephrologist said, look, he's probably going to need a kidney when he's like 15, like a teenager. And the grandfather was like, well, look, I can donate now, but in 10 years, I'll be like 75 years old. You know, he's like, feels strong and great now. So it was his idea. So he actually said, look, I'll donate now. You give a coupon and give one to, I'll start a chain. He knew about the chain, so he knew he would start a chain. And then he just said, look, Quinn can redeem the coupon in the future, and then just end a chain. Instead of ending a chain to the waiting list, the deceased donor, just give it to Quinn, you know. And it was like, great idea. What people were afraid of was that Quinn in 10 years won't look like Quinn at 4. He'll be a 14-year-old kid, and that maybe he doesn't need a kidney for 20 years. he could sell that coupon, and then someone could come forward and say, look, this is my coupon, but Quinn mainly sold it, and it wasn't Quinn. He sold it for $100,000. They're worried about vending. But
Right.
so he comes to UCLA, some stranger, he sells it and says, look, I get a kidney now. Meanwhile, he bought it. But what we did is that we know Quinn's name, and we know his blood type. And then there's something, the HLA proteins, which is like your signature. When you hear Maury Povich, like who's the father thing, that's based on HLA typing. So we know Quinn's, in order to redeem the voucher, you got to have the right government ID. You have to match the blood type that's in the registry, the voucher registry, through the National Kidney Registry. And then you also have to have the same HLA. When you test a droplet of blood, you check it to make sure it's the right HLA, which is like it's almost like your fingerprint. So those three have to match. And so once I talked to the various surgeons and nephrologists across the country that were giving me a hard time, including the ASTS, American Society of Transplant Surgeons, they kind of settled down and said, okay, no, this is good. There won't be any vending.
Right.
And so the voucher program started to catch on, but it wasn't that we did the first one in 2014. Only now has there been hundreds and hundreds done. Emory did one where it was a grandmother who wanted to donate to her granddaughter who didn't need a kidney now, but maybe in a few years. They did one, and it was featured by Sanjay Gupta on CNN. And then that really helped kind of get the exposure of the voucher program out. But originally I called it a coupon, then it was a gift certificate, and I think the voucher is the right name for it. A coupon sounds a little like cheap, where it's a voucher. You redeem it.
It's significant.
Yeah, it's a voucher. So we've got the right name. Enough centers have done it now. There's been hundreds around the country. There's been a few people that have redeemed their voucher and they got a kidney right away. And so the whole system works. And you know, I'm very proud of it. It's great.
I think it's really smart for a number of reasons. One is, so before I donated, I was able to talk to someone else who donated, and she donated to her husband at the same time. So basically she and her husband were both had major surgery at the exact same time. That was really a hardship for them. In this way, she could have donated, even if it were a month later, it would have been better than doing it at the exact same time. Does the voucher ever expire?
Yeah, so there's a short-term voucher, and then there's the family voucher or long-term voucher. I actually, again, just came from clinic, so I saw some patients. There's a patient exactly like that. Her husband donated 2 weeks ago, and she is getting a kidney in a couple of weeks. So they like the voucher program, a short-term voucher, just so they can, she helped him recover from her donor nephrectomy, and then he's helping her recover from her transplant surgeon. So it disconnects. Does the voucher expire? Yes. So when you're talking like a long-term voucher, like let's talk about Quinn, the first one, and Judge Broadman. So Judge Broadman, he donated. Quinn has this voucher, the grandson, he's 4, but he's still not on dialysis. He still hasn't had to redeem it. Maybe he hangs in there for the rest of his life on his solitary wobbly kidney and never redeems the voucher. But when Quinn was to, unfortunately, die at like 90 years old, the voucher would expire then. So the voucher is non-transferable. And the same thing is that maybe Quinn and his grandfather get an argument, and the grandfather's like, you know what, I'm taking this voucher away. No, once it's Quinn's voucher, the grandfather can't renege it away. It's Quinn's. So it's non-transferable. Only Quinn can do it. And then it expires. The only other thing is that there's these people like you who are non-directed or altruistic donors. And there's a few people like that that are like, look, I donate blood, I donate bone marrow, it's how I live my life. I want to like help people in society. And they're thinking about donating a kidney to a stranger, but they're reluctant to do it because maybe they're holding off on donating because they want to give a kidney to their wife, maybe, or their children, just in case, even though their wife and children are perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
For those people that it's a very unlikely that their wife or children will ever need a kidney, you can list up to 5 people on that they all get vouchered, because if they were going to donate to a stranger, they sure would donate to their children or their wife, so or their spouse, you know. So that's a long-term family voucher, and that's for you can list up to 5 healthy family members in case they ever needed a kidney. And then the first one who would need a kidney, the other 4 wouldn't be eligible.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's fairly new. Is that right?
Yeah,
That,
this is all through the National Kidney Registry. If you went to the National Kidney Registry website, you can go to the voucher program. You can read all this stuff and all the details
yeah.
on it. The neat thing about it is that it brings in a new concept where it's chronological incompatible. We often think of maybe I want to donate a kidney to my mother, but maybe I'm A blood type and she's B blood type. So maybe we're blood type incompatible, or maybe she has whatever, made antibodies to my antigens. So we're cross-matching compatible. But this is chronological incompatible. Often people need to donate, the donor needs to donate now, but it's not a good time for the recipient. So you look at cross-matching compatible, blood type incompatible, this is chronological incompatible. The donor and recipient are incompatible based on time.
Right.
And that is really a brilliant concept. Alex Capron, who was on our first paper, came up with that concept. I think it's brilliant. If you look at our first paper on the voucher, it was his idea to introduce this chronological incompatibility, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it's actually amazing. You brought me into my next question, which is really about the paired exchange. And so maybe you could just briefly talk about that, because I have an important question about that. And then also wanted to talk about people who are compatible, but still going into the paired exchange. So just real briefly, what is the paired exchange?
So the paired exchange started, were basic swaps. So let's say you want to donate to your mom and I want to donate to my mom, but you're A and your mom's B and I'm B and my mom's A. I could donate to your mom, B to B, and you could donate to my mom, A to A. So it started as a basic swap, started in Rhode Island, two surgeons there, Morrison and I forgot the other gentleman's name. They did it, but they learned about it because they had done that in Korea by Dr. Park. It's basic swaps. It didn't catch on in the United States because there was some concern again about is that exchanging a valuable commodity? Are we kind of almost like exchanging money, even though it's exchanging? So it wasn't until the Norwood Act got passed in 2007 that then it was kind of deemed to be legal to do swaps. Mike Reese in Toledo introduced chains. And these are where you get a non-directed donor donates to my mom, I donate to your mom, you donate it forward. And that's kind of where things took off, was once it got into chains, the National Kidney Registry. Now there's been like 7,000 or 8,000 of these kidney exchanges done around the United States. I think the biggest thing is that, shipping kidneys is really changed it, that you can ship a kidney, so it opens up the pool rather than the donors and the recipients have to travel to the center. And so once we ship kidneys, it doesn't. And it's kind of the same algorithms that you do for Airbnb or Uber and so on. Now, usually you're doing it because you're blood type or cross-matching compatible, but some people do it even as a compatible exchange. So let's say you maybe want a younger kidney for you. You might maybe I could donate to one of my daughters, but maybe my daughter wants a younger kidney, or it'd be better if she got like a younger kidney from someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
So I could donate to her, but we could also do an exchange and then she would get a younger kidney. What's the more common one is size matching. So there's some gentlemen that are like 6'6", these big 250 pounders, and they're maybe married to a smaller, lady who's 5 feet tall. And you might want to get a bigger kidney, more of a size match. So even though the wife is maybe O blood type and compatible with her husband, maybe they want to do the exchange, and then he gets another gigantic guy's kidney and she donates to maybe a smaller person. So it's for size matching. Some people do compatible just out of like altruistic reasons, because they know if they do it, even though they could donate to their spouse or loved one, doing it compatible means that they're helping more than one person, and not just helping their loved one, but they're helping a stranger too. So that's in a nutshell compatible and kidney exchanges. And there's a whole history of the swaps and the Norwood Act and chains and exchanges, but that's about as briefly as I could do it.
Yeah, that's great. So, it's really just, I kind of want to explain it to the average person who doesn't really need to know all that stuff, but really needs to understand why it might be beneficial for you to do go into the exchange rather than give to your person. And for me as a donor, so I don't even know all the details, but I think, there's different number of matches for a particular match. And so maybe my kidney, even though it fit my recipient and the blood type was right, maybe I could have given to someone where it would have been an even better match, and he could have gotten
Right.
an even better match. And for me as a donor, I mean, my motivation is that I hope I'm helping somebody.
Right.
So I don't, in my case, I don't care who I'm helping as long as, you know, somebody gets helped. But even if it's your loved one, you know, it still may be advantageous. So I feel like that has to be really part of the discussion, as I think a lot of people might be willing to do. And as you say, then it kicks off a chain.
Right. And yeah, you could do a compatible pair, even though you could donate to like your cousin, say, but by doing it compatible and donating into the pool, you're putting one into the pool of kidneys, and then your cousin gets to pull one out of the pool, and that might be a better match. Maybe you were like a 2 out of 6 match, but maybe they're able to now pull out a 4 out of 6 or a 5 out of 6 match or a 6 out of 6 match. So it's a better HLA match, which could have, you know, fewer antibodies developed in the future. I mean, the kidney exchange at its simplest form, it's sometimes you can donate to your recipient, but your recipient has antibodies to the donor. So you would have to be on higher levels of immunosuppression. You have a higher chance of rejecting, and people still kind of force the immune system to accept it. With the swap or vouchers or chains or exchanges, you're basically getting the recipient a kidney that they don't have antibodies to. So you're not fighting the immune system. Now, logistically, it's more complicated because it's like planes and different hospitals and surgeries, and the coordinators do so much more work. But immunologically, it's better for the kidney and the immune system not to have to fight, and not for us to have to force against these antibodies to just find a kidney that's more compatible. So that's it. I mean, for more information, go to the UCLA Kidney Exchange Program. Go to the National Kidney Registry, and you can read up on all this stuff. And yeah,
I think it's important. So even today, I saw someone post a flyer on Facebook for a loved one looking for a kidney, and it says blood type B or O. And it actually makes me a little bit crazy, because what they should be writing is any blood type.
Any kidney. And then you put them in the exchange. They could be A.
So I feel like people copy other people's flyers. You know, they see, and even the flyer I saw, it said O, and I thought, oh, I'm O. So it made me kind of more interested, because I thought, okay, maybe I can. But had I known what I know now, and so I basically wrote on Facebook, just by the way, you don't have to match that, as long as you're healthy and willing and able, you know, you can still give to this person. But I don't think that's really known. And so I wish there was like a hashtag, like any blood type or something, to like kind of change the way people are asking for kidneys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it used to bother me more because I'd be like, I'd see a pair in clinic and they'd be like, oh, I'd like to donate to my husband, but we're incompatible. And I'd be like, doesn't matter. You just have to put one into the system and you pull one out. It doesn't matter. I guess the kidney exchange and chain just isn't out there enough. But that's why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, thank you, Catherine, for doing it. I mean, I should probably do more of this, but it's better coming from patients. It's better grassroots. And there has, like I said, been thousands of them done. It's just still, people think you have to be a match, and you don't. You just have to have that kidney as your bargaining chip. Put it in, and then let the computer system give one back.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that over the next couple of years, we really change that. And soon, like, we won't see any flyers that say what blood type, any blood type.
Any kidney donor.
Any kidney donor. Yes. So I wanted to talk also about the idea of regifting. So I always assumed if you put a kidney in someone, then that's it. But now you're able to retransplant that into somebody else. Is that true?
Right. And so that's another one of my babies that, so I didn't like it so sometimes you have, like, unfortunately, like a young donor. So for example, there was a 17-year-old female who died in a car accident. Her family, her parents gave the gift of her organs. So she was like a liver donor, lung donor, heart donor, and 2 kidney donors. One of her kidneys went to a 23-year-old, and he had the kidney transplant for 2 years. It was functioning very well. Unfortunately, that recipient then got into a car accident. And so I didn't want that 17-year-old kidney to get, like, discarded. I mean, it has a lot of life years left on it. There's a lot of life years. And so I asked the family if I could take that went through one legacy, our organ procurement, if we could take the kidney out of their loved one, the 25-year-old now that passed, and re-gift it, recycle it essentially. And they were like, there was a family that was kind enough to do this and help our family. And he did so well with it for 2 years. We would love to pass on the generosity. And so I took the kidney out of that recipient and then re-gifted it. And it went to a 69-year-old lady. And she's just done so well. She thought she'd been on dialysis for 10 years. She really thought it was like the end of her life. Now her life has been totally renewed. She went and saw her nephew get married in like South Carolina. She's traveled. She saw it's been years now. She saw her granddaughter graduate high school, and that kidney has been going strong for years and years and years. And it's 3 people sharing one kidney, which is pretty neat. Yeah. The nice thing is about that is that it was actually a white donor that was 17 donated to a Latino male, who then donated to an African-American female, and they all were compatible. And I think there's something that transcends transplantation into like bigger society right now with these issues we're facing. It's like, come on, like we got to get over this. Like it's like a kidney's pink. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. Like, let's get past.
That's also, I think, a myth too, that you wouldn't be able to give to somebody of a different ethnicity or race, but that's obviously not true.
No, I have no idea what, like, when I'm sewing in a kidney's pink. You know, same thing. I don't even know the gender. Like, it's like I may think it's like a male kidney or a female kidney, but it doesn't matter. I don't know their sexuality or their religion, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is kind of nice. And then the re-gifted kidney is as good as, whatever new kidney you would have given it. If it's a 23-year-old, it's a 23-year-old, in this case, it was 2 years later. Is it as good, or you would only really re-gift it to an older person?
Well, that was the concern. Again, I performed the first 3 that had ever been done at One Legacy, and they've probably done like 30,000 kidney transplants, and these were the first 3. And that was the concern, because the kidney's it's been through 2 death events now. It's been on ice twice. It's been cross-clamped twice. Would it work? And all 3 are functioning fabulously. Some things you just gotta like try and do. The heart's still beating. These patients are brain dead. So the transplant is still being perfused. And so if you just take it out of that patient and then re-gift it, I don't know, it just seems like it should work. I just don't want to discard. There's too many people that need kidneys. So again, a few other centers have done it. And it's been great. I mean, there was one of the ones I'd like to talk about is that it was really neat, because unfortunately a person died, fell off a ladder, hit their head and died, and their family, or they signed their license and donated a kidney into a patient I transplanted. But my patient had something called focal segmental glomerular sclerosis, which is FSGS. It can attack the transplant. And so his FSGS was aggressively attacking the transplant. And after 4 or 5 days, it looks like he was going to go after the transplant too hard. And he didn't want to go through the treatment, which is like pheresis and rituximab. He didn't want all that. He just didn't want it. He was like, you know what, just, can you take this kidney out of me? And then I asked him, I'm like, do you mind if I re-gift it to someone who doesn't have FSGS? And so, he was like, absolutely. If someone else can use it, if my body, isn't accepting it, if someone else can use it. But he's an interesting case, because he was a living donor that donated a deceased donor kidney. So if you can wrap your head on that, a living donor that donated a deceased donor kidney.
That's amazing.
He didn't donate his own left kidney or his own right kidney. That's like commonly, like you donated your left kidney.
Yeah.
No, imagine if you donated a deceased donor kidney from someone that had
unbelievable.
died. So, and it worked great. It's still working. Again, this is years out. These kidneys are still working. And it went to a lady who had polycystic kidney disease. So I knew she didn't have FSGS. Polycystic kidney disease is kind of a genetic thing on chromosome 4 or 16. So once you put a kidney that doesn't have that abnormality, and it's been functioning great. But it brings up all kinds of interesting questions, because you're not matching the donor, you're actually matching the donor's donor. And, I consider him a living donor, that if we ever find the cure to FSGS, I think he's like you. If you go into kidney failure, you go to the top of the list.
Yeah.
You get a kidney, boom.
Yeah.
I actually think if they find the cure for FSGS, that he should go to the top of the list, because I actually think he's a living donor.
Yes, he is.
Even though he only had the kidney for 5 days, it was still his kidney, and he still donated it, and he saved another person's life.
Yeah.
And so if we find FSGS, I think he should go to the top of the list and get another kidney. But
Wow.
that's getting into it a little deep. But remember, this was the first ever in the world, a living donor that donated a deceased donor kidney, not their own kidney, but someone who had died kidney. And it was so interesting because the computers won't line up, because it was like, you know, the UNOS number, these IDs, you know, were it's like you can only donate your own native kidneys in the computer system. There's not an option to put like,
Your new
I'm
one
donating someone else's kidney. And then it was a left kidney that I had put on the right. And so it was like, it shows that protocol is good when you're, but it does inhibit innovation. And so you just got to be careful when we like protocolize things, not to inhibit innovation. And that kidney would have been discarded, and now it's functioning beautifully. Again, one kidney shared by 3 people.
That's incredible. I do hope that that grows, because I think you're right, that there's no point in wasting something, and those people would very likely donate. You know, their families would, because they already had that gift. They know how meaningful it was. So, you know, I hope that keeps going. Just a couple of last questions.
Yeah.
I've heard the myth that if you are a donor on your license, that you will not get good care when you go to the emergency room, because they just want to take your organs. Now, I know that's not true, but what would you say to somebody who feels that way?
Yeah, so I actually did this segment on the doctor show. If you want to see how that is, just look YouTube, Misconceptions in Organ Donation.
Okay.
I think put my name and look on the doctor show, and you'll see it there, because that's one that kind of bothers me, because it's like yesterday I did a organ recovery at another center, and I don't know where those kidneys are going to go. And it's not like in the hospital right now I have one patient who's on dialysis in the hospital right now, and we're talking to the doctors in the ICU and going like, oh, you know, this patient can just get this kidney. And it's not like I have one patient in one room and then another patient in another room. No, you know, it goes to whoever's next on the waiting list. So when you take out deceased donor organs, it goes to wherever. I don't even know which hospital it's going to go to. And sometimes if it's a perfect match, it'll go not just in California, but it'll go to like New Jersey or somewhere where it's a perfect match for that recipient. And it's pretty beautiful that in the United States, there's like a surgeon and an OR and a hospitals that'll take this kidney out and then ship it to a perfect match. And the airlines all agree it goes on the next airline. And then there's another surgical team that's going to sew this kidney in and get this person off dialysis. And they're all disconnected. I wouldn't even know who the doctors are in the ICU right now at UCLA. I'd have no idea. It's not like they're like, oh, hey, Jeff, I have this patient. We're going to, you know, like, I have no idea. And the kidneys I'm getting, I didn't like, it's completely disconnected. And it's not like I said, there's like one room with someone dying and another room with someone who needs a kidney, and you just.
But that's always how it is on TV, is the problem.
Yeah, it's nothing even like that. I mean, it's like, I don't even know who the surgeons are, or, you know, I know where the kidney has come from, like what state and so on.
Yeah.
And I know when the plane is flying in, but it's certainly not like that. I don't know how else to bring down that myth, but all I can say is that I'm an organ donor, and you know, I'm the pink dot on my license. I actually don't have my license on me. I actually showed it on the doctor show. My
I believe you.
Yeah. So anyway, so I've seen both sides. I do the organ recovery and the transplants, obviously. And if I'm an organ donor, I believe in the system. And plus, I've seen how much effort goes into some of these people that have died in a car accident, and it's incredible. They've done everything for these patients, like, you know, helicopter lift them.
Yeah.
Given incredible care, done everything to kind of try to keep them alive. They have done everything to keep these patients alive. And unfortunately, they died, but they have done everything. And often if it's like a young donor, it's so tragic. If it's a, motor vehicle accident or, yeah, and that you can see they've received like 60 units of blood. They had like the neurosurgery team create like burr holes and like try to do everything to keep the patient alive. And they've often been sitting in the ICU, waiting for maybe it's a college student waiting for their family to fly from like, New York or something to say goodbye to their son or daughter. And so they're on like life support, waiting. So it's like they really go to a tireless effort to do it. And then the donor family, I think sometimes they feel good that their child was at least able to save like a single mother or a teacher or whoever, an accountant, an insurance agent, a doctor. I mean, they're like their legacy was able to help out another family or multiple families when it's multiple organs. We say kidneys save people lives, but when a donor donates their liver, their heart, their lung, I mean, they're really saving their life right then and there.
Yeah.
And again, I'm grateful to all the families that donate and have their loved ones when they tragically die, which is horrible what they have been through. And thank you for, at that time, the worst moment of their life, for thinking of other families that are waiting and the benefits, and that loved one's legacy lives on.
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful gift at the worst time, at least is some small piece of good that can come out. Yeah. Okay, I have a few super fast questions,
No
like
problem.
one word answers. What's the oldest donor you've worked with?
I don't do it for the living donors. It's Dr. Gritch and Dr. Blumberg, Dr. Chin that do it. So I don't know, but we've done some donors that are in their 70s, late 70s at UCLA, and one of my oldest recipients is in their 80s, and he's doing great. Thank goodness, it's been a few years. So I would say our oldest donor would be, again, I don't know exactly because I don't do the donor side of thing, the living donor, but I would say like late 70s.
And the oldest recipient could be
80s.
late 70s.
Yeah,
80s.
Like early 80s we've done. Okay. I mean, so I have one in particular that I really, I'm like close to, and so I know him well. I'm close to his daughter. And he was turned down at other centers, but I mean, he was in such great shape that we transplanted him here. He just did great. And he was up the next day, and he was like, he left hospital on like day 3, I think, and he's just a special guy. But you have to be extremely healthy, and usually in your early 80s you have enough other health problems. You got to be kind of especially healthy, 80
but if you are, then even whether you're a donor or recipient, basically the message is you could be in 70s, 80s and still be able to save a life and receive a kidney in the right circumstances.
That's probably the upper limit, but yeah, absolutely.
And then do you have an idea? I feel like I heard something like a really long time, but the longest kidney donation that lasted, how long the longest kidney lasted after transplantation?
Well, we're very proud of, we have a donor and recipient that the kidney is now 52 years old.
That's what I thought. That's amazing.
And so this was a father who donated to his daughter 52 years ago. And the donor was 38, and the recipient was 8. She was just 8-year-old kid. And now we celebrated them when they had their 50th anniversary here at UCLA. Now the donor is 90, and now she's like 60.
Amazing.
It's amazing. And so we had a big party for them here. Yeah, that was a father to, that's our oldest known, still functioning kidney transplant. And it's over 50 years old. But yeah, some of the early, there was their famous sisters, and the name just, they're famous Canadian sisters in Canada. They went to see Joe Murray. They were identical twins. They were always known as like the oldest donor recipient, and they're these sisters, and they both became like teachers or nurses, you know, and had full lives, and it was a big deal. Like when she received her kidney, it was JFK, before he was president, went and visited her, and she has like a teddy bear from like their life is just so full.
Yeah.
And her sister, who was an identical twin, I think their transplant was like in 1958 or something, maybe 1955. That kind of range. Anyway, her sister was only 14. No, her sister was 12 or 14. She's the youngest donor ever to donate a kidney. Now we say, look, you should probably be at least 21, but maybe 25. Yeah. Before you donate a kidney. For a lot of reasons, but here they donated at she was like a living donor at 12 or 14 years. It's incredible. I just can't think of their name, and it breaks my heart.
Don't worry, I'll Google it.
Yeah, Joseph Murray and the something sister twins, and they've had, you know, got married, and they're nurses or teachers, and they're the oldest known ones, I think, in the world.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So last thing is, what's on the horizon for you? Anything that you're looking towards for something new, further developing?
Yeah, it might be the McNeely sisters. Gosh.
As soon as we get off, you know you're going to remember.
Oh, I mean, I don't know them well. I mean, it's just one of these things. You just see them pop up at the odd thing. Tolerance. I think I'm really excited about tolerance. It's kind of my next thing that I'm really into. And so what happens is that if you were to give Eli your bone marrow, so Eli's your recipient. So if you were to donate Eli your bone marrow, then Eli would have your immune system. So then he would recognize your kidney as self, and he could potentially come off his immunosuppression. Because right now, people don't love being on immunosuppression, especially with COVID, because if they get sick with COVID, it increases their chance of death, fairly substantially. Also, people on immunosuppression, they have side effects. You have like a 55 times greater chance of getting skin cancer and so on. So there's a push for patients to not just get a kidney transplant, but to not have to take their pills and be off immunosuppression. Plus, immunosuppression, ironically, over time is harmful on the kidney. The thing that it's helping to function,
attack it too.
actually ends up damaging it slowly. So most kidneys only function for like 20 years from a living donor. But if you can be off immunosuppression, maybe you just have, maybe Eli just has Catherine's kidney for the rest of his life. So you can do it. So it's tolerance. So it's basically what's happening. You get a kidney transplant and a bone marrow transplant. It was started at Mass General, and then Stanford was one of the pioneers, and Northwestern. Those are the three big ones. We have now got FDA approval, IRB approval, IND approval, and we are ready to enroll patients.
Wow.
If you have, we're going to start with a well-matched sibling. You don't have to be an identical, but you just have to be a well-matched sibling. So we're going to start sister to brother, brother to sister, 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 brother, brother, that kind of thing. Then come to UCLA, and we will see if you can be enrolled in the program. So what happens is that the donor donates their bone marrow, basically, their hematopoietic progenitor stem cells, their CD34. This is getting a little too technical, but you're basically giving your bone marrow to your sibling. And then once the bone marrow is in, you can also give the kidney simultaneously at the same time. Now, if it forms a chimerism, so a chimerism's got like a head of a horse and a body of a human, and it's like a Greek mythological thing. It's like a combination. So if the recipient's able to kind of take the donor's bone marrow and they are harmonious and they form a chimerism, then after about 6 months, if it's a durable chimerism and you still have your donor's stem cells, bone marrow stem cells, then you can wean them off of immunosuppression after 6 months slowly. And some of these patients at Mass General and Stanford and Northwestern, and some of them are like 16 years out, immunosuppression free.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. I mean, tolerance, I'll quote Dr. Danovich, one of the nephrologists, says, tolerance in any form is good, but this immune tolerance is especially exciting. So
yeah.
That's the big thing. So we're going to first start with well-matched siblings, and then we're going to go to mismatched patients, and then we'll probably go, who knows, maybe you could eventually down the road donate your bone marrow to Eli. A bone marrow donation isn't what it used to be, where it used to be painfully done through the hip. You'd have to be under anesthesia. Now you take these kind of powerful drugs that actually take your bone marrow cells and put them in the peripheral blood, and then you have an IV in your arm, and it pulls it through a machine to take these stem cells out. And so it's much easier for the donor. You can watch TV or Netflix while you wait a few hours for them to do it.
Yeah.
And it's neat. And then the legacy of your kidney could last longer. And Eli doesn't need to be on immunosuppression, which is exciting for patients. They don't have to pack their pills when they're going to Italy, and they don't have to worry about skin cancer or viruses such as COVID having detrimental effects if they get it, and so on. So,
okay, well, you can sign me up when it's time to give it retroactively. I'm in. That sounds amazing.
Give us a few years, but that's the big plug, is that we are now FDA approved and everything's been approved. All the bureaucracy paperwork's been run. We are ready to enroll patients. So that's my big plug. So if you could help if you could help me, Catherine, promote that if you have a well-matched sibling and you're thinking about a kidney transplant, and you're in California, come on down to UCLA or Stanford if you're in Northern California, and you can be potentially enrolled in a tolerance program, which means you could potentially be off immunosuppression, and your kidney could potentially last for life instead of 20 years.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to give you the award for the best doctor last name of all time. Dr. Veale is the best name ever. Yep. And you are doing amazing, amazing work. I am so proud to be part of UCLA, and I'm really proud of the work you're doing and just developing things in the future that will help even more people. So I commend you. I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and just explain some of the basics. And I'll send you back to do the good work that you've been doing, but I thank you so much.
Well, first, that was really fun. Thank you for making this so fun.
Sure.
You're a great interviewer because it's fun. And of course, ultimately, thank you for, donating your kidney and helping Eli, my recipient. I forgot what your kidney looks like because it's been a while, but I know it's functioning great. And just thank you for your kindness. I think this world needs a little bit more kindness, and that there's nothing more kind that you can do. It's a big thing, and you took on lots of potential risks and so on, and I just like for you to take it on to make the world a better place. It's an honor to get to know you, Catherine. So thank you for making the world a better place. Darn it, we need it right now.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
All right. I really appreciate your time. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Bye.